John, how you doing?
Yes. I had a couple questions for you. One, if you could define belief, because that's one of the main problems I have with atheism in terms of it not having substance.
I'll answer your question as long as you answer one honestly. Is this James?
No.
You liar.
I'm serious. I don't even know who you're talking about.
All right. How I define belief, I think in the sense that we've used it most often, is accepting a claim to be true.
Okay, now isn't that more knowledge?
No, because knowledge is a subset of belief. Knowledge as justified true belief with a little bit more to it than that. But you can believe something and it may or may not count as knowledge until it's justified and true.
Okay, so you're saying that lack of belief means a lack of, in what you said, the lack of...
a lack of accepting a claim as true, yes.
Accepting, okay, so then I guess there would be some sort of reasoning, some sort of science in that idea.
Doesn't have to be.
What I'm trying, because my experience of belief from the religious part is that it's more about trust or knowing, and then that delves more into faith, which is the trust part.
Yeah,
so you have to have trust. You have to have faith. It means absent of proof.
Correct.
Right up front. So belief so the idea of that the lack of not what did you say? The lack of not knowing.
Well, I wouldn't. When I say belief, I'm talking about acceptance of a claim. So a lack of belief would be a non-acceptance of the claim.
So a non-acceptance of the claim that there is something out
there. Sure.
Right.
The claim,
for
$20,
example,
I have $20 in my wallet.
Yeah, let's say if I told you that there's a leprechaun that lives under a rock in my backyard and you say, I don't accept that, I don't believe it. That's disbelief.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Lack of belief, you're taking out trust and you're taking out faith. Because I can say I believe.
I wouldn't say you're completely taking out.
I can believe in someone is going to do for me something, even though I have really no proof of it, even though there might be tons and tons of evidence that suggests it could be proof of it. But it's almost a trust issue when I'm saying I believe in someone, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. And that's the difference. In atheism, they're sort of saying that you have to trust the negative. And it seems like you're trying to split the word to mean to go into trust. And you're saying, well, look, we're only going to accept one part of belief, and that is the definition we're going to use, and that's how we're going to define belief.
No,
instead you're okay. Go ahead.
Hang on. When we're talking about belief and whether or not you believe something, and take Tracy's example of the leprechaun under the rock in her backyard. Right. You're either going to believe that claim or you're not. Now, how do you go about, in everybody's mind, basically we're trying to constantly build a worldview, and we've got a toolbox that we use to analyze any claim. And it's all about training ourselves to be able to do the analysis quickly and accurately as possible, because you don't want to be sitting around forever trying to make a decision about it.
But isn't that more method and has nothing to do with, you're saying that this method is substantiating your claim. Your ultimate hypothesis, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your own will to validate that method, meaning that I will this to be true because it makes sense to me.
I don't will anything to be true, and I don't believe anybody else can either. Well, if I could will something to be true, I wouldn't be on the TV show.
You can't possibly not believe in your own thinking. Belief is a trust in something that you can't possibly have no knowledge of.
No.
Yeah, there is some belief to that.
I believe.
I'm not saying you don't have.
Hold on. I believe I'm holding a pen. I happen to also know that I'm holding a pen, or at least I know that I'm holding a pen as far as this reality is concerned. I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, but I believe I hold this pen. Now, that's a belief which doesn't require any trust or anything else. It's based on evidence. There are other things that I can believe that I may not necessarily have direct experiential knowledge of, but I can believe them for very good reasons. For example, we've used the orbit of Pluto before. We know how long it takes Pluto to orbit the sun, and I believe that Pluto has orbited the sun at least one time, even though I haven't been along and I haven't been alive long enough to see it, and nobody's known about Pluto long enough for it to make an entire orbit. But the math's there, and it says that it's orbiting the sun, and I happen to believe that that's true. I could be wrong. I believe Australia exists. I've never been there. I have friends who've been there. I've never experienced it personally, but I believe it, and I believe it for good reasons. And that's the point that I was getting at before, is that we haven't eliminated this idea of trust. What we've done is say trust is something which is earned by reliability, consistency. Faith, on the other hand, is the permission slip that we give each other to believe things without good reason, to believe things without the requisite evidence, with the appropriate level of trust. Faith is just saying, we can go ahead and believe this even though we don't have a good reason to believe it. I'm talking about believing things for good reasons, based on evidence.
And I would also add, though, that like the claim whether or not Australia exists is something that is verifiable.
Right.
You are believing it right now, but if you wanted to verify it, you can.
Yeah,
you
and
can
that's
go
part of
and
the
find
reason
out
why I
whether
would
there's
believe it.
Yeah.
If you tell me something, no matter how convincing you are, and it's not something that I could ever verify if I wanted to, then I'm probably not going to believe it.
If it's not verifiable, then the question is why would anyone believe it?
Yeah. So I put you on hold. Now, have I answered your question?
Okay, no, I understand what you're saying. And to some degree, I mean, I still think you narrowly, you sort of just, you take away the trust part of it. And I also think you're taking away from the historical reason atheism became a word unto itself, became to symbolize certain knowledge.
How am I taking away from that?
It doesn't have anything to do with knowledge.
I mean, first of all, atheism as it's used now goes back to in 16th century France, but it was originally also used by the Romans that was their label for the Christians. And it was basically, it meant anybody who doesn't believe in the conventional gods. The Christians didn't believe in the Roman gods, so the Romans called them atheists. And then you had these Christian apologists coming out, like Athenagoras of Athens, who comes out and says, no, we're not really atheists. So we know how you're using that word, but this word should really mean somebody who denies the existence of God. And he goes back and tells us about Dioscorus in ancient Greece, who was supposedly the first atheist, the first person to publicly come out and say there were no gods. So, but I don't know how I'm ignoring or diminishing the history of atheism and how it came to be. And where that goes to your trust.
Well, it's within your example itself. You're saying that the Romans called the Christians atheists.
Right.
And they called atheists because they didn't believe in, polytheism or whatever, or several different gods versus their one God. So it's in that sense, the Romans didn't necessarily have proof of it. They certainly could point out things. But what I'm trying to say is that there is a certain sense of humanitarianism in the word belief that the atheist experience tends to take out.
Why?
And the importance of it is, the reason why I'm trying to acknowledge that is because by taking that out, it's relative, the whole word, the whole movement in it of itself seems, how would you say,
I have a hard time accepting your I have a hard time accepting your propositions for two reasons. You start off by saying that we're taking trust out of it, and then I explain how we're not taking trust out of it, and I give you better definitions. And now you start saying that atheism takes the humanitarianism out of something. Right,
and I'm still going on my main argument that it is taking trust out. You're saying that you proved otherwise, and I understand. I'm saying, okay, so my proof that trust is being taken out of it is because
trust in what? I don't understand what you're saying. And when you say
meaning that I trust that you.
Hang on, let me ask you this too, and I'll let you answer it. You've said that something about atheism is taking the humanitarianism. What is it taking the humanitarianism out of? What are you talking about?
Okay, well, let me back. You're right, because you did bring up an argument. You're saying that you've somehow successfully proving that.
You got 3 minutes, and then I got to go to other callers.
So you have trust that it sounds like that you haven't established that, and I'll try to establish that trust has been taken out of the word belief by you taking.
And I'm saying that trust is never a part of the word belief. But
right,
I'll give you your
right. Trust is never part of it. I'm saying that it is part of belief. That is it.
Then you're wrong.
No, because
I mean, this is definitional. This is
no. Now you can't. You just said I'm wrong.
Yes.
And I'm saying you're wrong. So where are we going to go from there?
I'm going to hang up and you're going to go look in a dictionary and find out. You're going to go read a philosophy book about belief. Belief is literally just acceptance of a claim. Now, your reasons behind that, and this is what I tried to do when I started to bring up the methodology for this, that's something that you didn't want to talk about. You just wanted to go back to belief and say that we've taken the trust out of it. Then when I explain that we haven't, you come back and say that we did. Well, we're not going to get anywhere, so you can go read a book and look up the definition of belief, which is acceptance of a claim, and look up something about knowledge, which is justified true belief, and then we can start over. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff because I like it. But if we're not getting anywhere and spinning our wheels on the show, I got to move on. So I apologize if that's the case, but, call me back.
It's about time for Christians to confront the fact that their religion is prejudiced against people like us.
Oh, my God. You need help.
I need help, huh?
You do
Okay.
need help.
Fine.
I mean,
okay. Yeah, but
I'll
what
make
we
sure
don't
that he
need,
gets
what we
some
don't
help.
need is to constantly hear from folks like you that we deserve to be punished just because we're not in your club.